circling.
Oh, the priorities are, see.
Well, I'm halfway up and I'm staying this way.
Okay, folks, welcome to tonight's Master Plan Update Steering Committee. Anna, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Definitely a minute we're having this discussion earlier today.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, for anybody that may not have checked the calendar, today is March 1st. It means it's 2 months away to the day, to town meeting, we'll be presenting the approved master plan. So, time's getting tight, folks. Got a few more things to do, and then we'll be there. What we're going to do today is go over again the recommendations that were made by RKG. And this time, we have a spreadsheet that you see up on television, and you'll be able to see other ways also. That is a implementation matrix of sorts. It talks about the particular suggestion or recommendation, the people who are responsible for helping make it happen, those who will assist in those people making it happen, where it falls in particular areas. It's put into common areas so that we can sort them that way also. Put some estimated costs, and again, those are very rough estimates in just about every instance. And then what we want to do today is offer priority so that when the plan is indeed approved, through the collective will of the town, hopefully through us and what we've been able to discern out of it, and then certainly the inputs from RKG to bring that all to fruition as to what the prioritization of these various recommendations are. We're going to be looking at high, medium, and low. There's nothing really sacrosanct is that you could, get a real definitive, to a decimal point. High means this, medium means that, low means something else. It's just relative to each other. We're looking at the plan in total on how these recommendations may rack and stack, so to speak. But the particular functional area in the town or people that are responsible for actually executing, how they will look at this prioritization will be somewhat different, because in one particular area, we may have low, medium, high, just to use that for 3 different items, but the people actually responsible for the execution may see it a little bit differently. And that's fine, because as it's been said from the get-go, it's an overarching guidance document, and that's all what this is. So when we go through this today, folks, I'd like us to keep that in mind. So if we start to get hung up on one and we want to move on, we'll just move on and come back to it.
Right.
I would overstate it to say I'm agnostic, personally, on a final prioritization, whether it be high, medium, or low, because I certainly want it to be collective. And if we can get to that area where we really feel this seems what the town wants, we will be successful in this little exercise this evening. We'll do ours, and then we'll have it being put up on the screen as we go through it.
I think it's a good idea.
So that we can log it. And then what RKG has done too, from their perspective, of viewing the picture of the town, if you will, from ours, to see, not as a compare and contrast, as to do it that way, but to, again, further collective wisdom, if you will, to help us come up with what we want to present to the town and actually have in the final plan. So with that said, does that seem to make sense to you all? A good approach?
Indeed.
Let's see if it works.
We ready to go?
What, do you expect some disagreement, or?
I mean, it's,
Items.
So everybody should have a nice full spreadsheet. What's this? 1 by 17 or something like that?
Yeah.
Should look at the one with your name at the top right. So
Yeah, look at one without my stuff on it, yeah.
Oh, look at the one without it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I want to, fresh
But the
minds.
one without it is, it doesn't have the numbers on the left, so
Okay, yes.
you might want to sort of ignore it.
So we'll figure it out.
Everything you said.
Okey-doke.
How come mine already have a?
Now, there can be a lot of discussion or need not be a lot of discussion. And really, I'd just like you to think high, medium, or low as we go down the list, and then we'll just proceed through it. Because if we all seem to come to a quick agreement, well, then hopefully we indeed have captured the collective will of the folks. So with that, and one more thing, and I apologize to you. For the moment, the elements, leadership, the partners, that stuff, don't worry about that. The estimated cost, we can get into a conversation on that later, along with the level of effort. If you think the time frame is off, though, that's important, because that helps shape prioritization.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
So the timeframe may be important, all right, if you think you need to address it. All right, so I'm going to start with the first one, and the key theme is Littleton Common. Prepare a detailed master plan for the Littleton Common and Beaver Brook area to guide redevelopment. So shout out, it's okay. High, medium, low.
How about if we, it's easier to say 1, 2, 3, and then that way you can put your marks down. You say, so if it's high for you, say 1, and just go right down, 2, 2, 2,
Why not HL? I mean,
because it's
Okay, 1, 2, 3.
High
So 1 for
HML?
high, 2 for medium, and 3 for low?
okay, you're up, Bartlett.
Hell, yeah, do it high.
I like the H. 1?
Yep.
You like H?
Okay, got it? Okay, anybody else?
One.
Yep.
1?
Okay.
1.
1, but I just want to give fair warning when we're going through this. I'm sorry, quick. I have a bias, and I want you to be aware of what I'm doing. I consider housing and new sources of revenue for the town to drive my thinking. So if you hear my ratings, that's what informs them. That's all.
Thank you. Okay, the second one, still key theme is Littleton Common. Change zoning to the Littleton Common and Beaver Brook area to encourage redevelopment according to the area master plan.
1.
1,
Yep.
Another one over there?
Littleton Common, invest in infrastructure to enhance walking, biking, signage, and parking in the Littleton Common area to make it easier and more convenient for customers and residents to visit local businesses.
2.
2,
2, yeah.
3,
Okay.
I'm going to say 1 because of the prioritization that was given to that item at the forums in terms of the level of importance that others.
Yeah, you're right, had interest in. Good. That's heard it says. Majority of them were 2s, though.
No, I understand that,
Yeah.
but it's going to be consensus.
Yeah. No, I wrote down them all.
So you had said 3.
I said 3 only because I thought other things needed to come first. I mean, the zoning.
If
and
we
the
carried it
sewer
at 2
decision.
right now,
I'm
are
fine
you
with
okay?
Well, I'll just stay at 1 and then.
Well, we're just picking the majority of the board, so, yeah, that's,
Okay. Right, anything that we have a hard disagreement, we will come back and readdress. All right, Littleton Common, make transportation improvements in and around Littleton Common.
2.
2.
2,
See now,
3.
you're a 3? You?
No, I'm a 2. If I don't object, then I'm going along with it.
See, I'm writing them down by not looking up, by just hearing the numbers. So right now I have 5.
Silence is
And
assent.
the reason for doing that specifically in the common is, again, because that's state controlled, so.
A lot of it is, yes.
Yeah.
All right. Are we content to put it at 2 for the moment?
Yes.
All right.
Yep.
Littleton Common, use CPA funds to support redevelopment and reuse of historic properties around the Common.
3,
1.
Now, you can't just agree because they're diametrically opposed.
Right. 3.
Yeah, 3.
Two.
2.
Okay, so we had lots of 3s and 2s. What was your thought for 1?
The CPA funds and what it can be used for as far as what it has been used in the past. I'd rather see it be used on something like a nice structure to keep it in the center of town, as opposed to a field that, that used to be a woods that went to a field and now it's back to, and then went back to a woods and now it's a field again. I can think of a better way to spend $40,000.
Would we be content to go with 2?
I think 2 would be a fair assessment, offsetting mine to the 3s.
Bartlett?
Yeah.
Okay, do that then. Littleton Common, determine an appropriate pathway forward for modifying transportation infrastructure on state-owned roadways around Littleton Common.
2,
2, yeah.
2.
2.
Room 222? Who's the teacher?
I was thinking of 3.
Forget.
I'm sorry.
3.
Okay. Bartlett?
I'd go with 2 on that.
Yeah, I was down at 3 also, and what I brought on, or tied onto, and maybe as I'm listening to you guys now, that was state-owned highways. So, but as far as working with the state, and the town's been fairly successfully recently, so maybe it is at least a 2.
I have 3 twos down, and I didn't hear anyone else say any other numbers, so
That's what I said.
you said 2 also, I didn't get,
Yeah.
well, you added 2, right? Mm-hmm. These 3 twos, 4 twos, and now a majority of 2s unless.
We're good.
We got a 5-2?
Good, 2.
Call Rich Crowley. Find out.
Okay, Littleton Common, underground overhead utility lines along portions of Great Road and King Street to increase the reliability, delivering power, and improve aesthetics around the common.
3.
3.
Agree, 3. I know it's important, but the cost and timeline are the.
Yeah, it's all in context here, I guess.
Yeah.
And that, I'm glad you said that, because it's important for us. Okay, Littleton Common, implement the recommendations from the upcoming Littleton Common Sewer Strategic Plan.
1.
1.
7. Oh, 1. I was playing.
One.
1.
Yeah, I think we're all in agreement there. Littleton Common, implement the recommendations, I just said that one, pardon me. Okay, we're into planned growth now. Conduct an audit of Littleton zoning bylaw, zoning diagnostic, and recodify and update it as necessary before adopting new land use policy initiatives to implement the master plan.
I think it's a 1.
1.
Yeah.
Place to start.
Necessary first step.
Okay.
It's all right.
Do we really need these guys here right now? You guys, what you guys are doing over there?
They're laughing at us because they disagree with all our,
No, no, no.
Okay, plan growth, conduct a corridor study for Great Road to plan for future land uses, open space and natural resource preservation, transportation improvements, and modify zoning to implement the plan.
2.
2.
1.
I think that's a 1. In my
I think it's a
estimation.
1.
And-
Okay, so 2, 2, 2,
2.
2.
I think it's a 1.
Okay, so
3 twos.
do we want to defer it now, or do you want to try to resolve it
I'll
right
just
now?
do my logic,
I'm
unlike some of the ones up above relative to the common, this one is not contingent on the above activity, right? At least the way I look at it, so I think
Right.
it's independent of it. And if you look at just the concern people have for the vulnerability of the farmlands, then I think the need to address it sooner rather than later makes it a 1 in my book.
Okay, has Paul talked us into it?
I'll go to
Yeah.
a 1. That was a
Yeah.
good,
Yeah,
I
it was a
like
good
that.
argument.
My thoughts
The only
exactly.
problem is that the farmlands aren't owned by the town, they're owned by private property.
Right.
And it's all circumstantial, it's also, whatever comes up. And I much rather devote resources to keeping the farms where they are, the same money,
Well,
rather than having a study again.
Well, if this, when I see a study can mean a lot of things, but I mean, when I see a study, I'm anticipating everything you just said to be a part of that, and that, you're doing things with the cooperation of the farmers, not imposing anything on them.
Yeah, I think the best way maybe to do things with the farmers is to, I know it sounds old-fashioned, is leave them alone. And I'm just thinking about.
That works
the-
until it doesn't.
Yeah, exactly, but you can have a plan in mind without necessarily, conferring.
Let's ask this question. When we're talking about Great Road and the corridor study, where do we think we were beginning and ending? In other words, on Great Road? Because that sort
Entire
of,
run of it.
is that from Acton?
Yes, all the
Gateway.
way.
Well,
Gateway,
yeah.
yeah.
Okay,
all the way to,
so if it's from Acton, then I'd like us not to concentrate in, that's farmland, because there's much more than farmland between Acton
part of the point,
and the
right.
common. Because there are some words in here that can cause farmers, and rightfully so, some concern, a lot of concern, actually, when we talk about modifying zoning.
Yep.
So to be clear, if we all seem to think we're talking about the same thing now, we're talking from the Acton line
All the way to
all
the,
the way to the common.
Groton line.
to the Groton line.
To the Groton line?
To the Groton line.
Because I-
Biggest farm in town is on the other side of
Well, that's
495.
what I was. We were thinking to the common.
Yeah,
Yeah.
actually,
Oh,
I think as this was developed,
since they wrote the recommendation, they had some ideas behind it.
yeah.
Well, we can,
You
we
want to
can,
hear from Junior, the recommendation?
well, let's see what those are afterwards, but right now we'll keep
Do you
going. The
have a-
reason,
does she have a geographic, does this refer specifically to a geographic region?
It's,
We were,
at least as far as Beaver Brook.
well, see, because right now, the only farms we're talking about is a horse farm on one side, which isn't very big, and then Danny Pickett's. That's it. After you get past the common, we've got Springdale and Springbrook. And Springbrook is the largest landowner in town, aren't the Mathesons? They own that land. They also own over by Chip Shots.
You got Lincoln's too.
Lingham's with the horse farm on the left-hand side of,
Yeah.
you know, that even though they're horse farms, we're not seeing things grow. It's fairly decent,
Right.
substantial pieces of land. So I think we better, like you said, go to Groton. If we're gonna look at something, we better look a little bit further than,
There's Gilson Road.
Well,
you want your Gilson, well, there ain't nothing after that, honey.
Why I said
so are we
Gilson
going
Road.
to discuss this one later or find out what the intended
All right, well,
length
we'll
was?
put it aside and we'll come back. How's that? Is that all right, Paul?
Yeah, because there's disagreement as to where it should be.
Right,
Okay.
that's fine.
All right,
All right, plan growth. Prepare an area plan for parcels in the vicinity of the Taylor Foster Street intersection and modify zoning to implement the plan.
1,
One.
One.
Draw one.
Yeah.
2.
Too late. Plan growth. Plan for and promote commercial activity nodes, particularly in the area around Taylor and Foster Streets.
1,
Isn't that contingent on 11? So I would say 2. Does one happen before the other?
Right in the middle of the road.
There's one or two cases throughout the recommendations. This is one. One came before under Littleton Common where a recommendation may have been written up, say, in the economic development chapter, and then it may reappear in land use. So that's why you see duplication for Littleton Common and for this one. So I think our intention was they're basically meant the same, even though they're worded a little bit differently.
Okay. So we probably can condense them.
We probably
Yeah, we'll
could,
condense them
yeah.
in the.
So you want to tie them into one suggestion then?
Yeah, I think if you make one of them the number 1, 2, or 3, I would make the same for
Yeah.
the other one, then we
Yeah.
can condense them afterwards.
I actually had tried to catch all those, but I missed this, yeah. Sorry,
Why we do
guys.
this exercise?
Sorry, guys.
Plan growth. Allow greater density in recognized activity areas near the train station, around the common, and in older industrial and commercial areas where redevelopment opportunities exist.
1,
Two.
Isn't that
Wait,
almost
allow
part of the
greater
zoning?
density.
Gino, could you please stop?
leave 'em alone.
I wasn't talking, I was listening.
Well, then,
For
sir,
your information.
All right, I'm looking for inputs on number 13. Allow greater density in recognized activity areas near the train station, et cetera.
Well, that's a part of the zoning process. I would say that's one.
Or it's all combined, it's kind of saying the same as the items above it, isn't it? Or is
Right.
it not?
Right.
Oh, except it's specific to the train station area.
Maybe I can just, if I could just.
Isn't that Foster Street, Taylor Street?
Hold on one
It's
second.
the same bloody
Go ahead,
thing.
Judy.
You know, when you're trying to make sort of big policy changes in your zoning, it's a good idea not to try to do them all at once. So the whole point about the recodification and update was just get the foundation where you need it to be before you start trying to lay cool stuff on it. So you have a number of land use policy questions here, and I think the issue is kind of what order do you anticipate perhaps, what's the relative importance, do you think, of some of these initiatives? Because you're probably not going to want to do them all at once. You might, but I understand. You might, but
It doesn't change their importance. though.
sometimes,
Yeah.
no, it doesn't change the
Yeah,
importance. That's
yeah.
true, it doesn't.
Yeah, so you can put it, I think the implementers are gonna have to figure out the detailed strategy of what order to go in.
Yeah, that's probably, yeah, that's
Mhm.
true. That's true. Good point.
Yes, but if we're going to offer a recommendation, it's the rationale, and I concur. That's why I personally had this at a 3. When we start talking about greater density, allow greater density.
As a general point, are we going to state somewhere that the prioritization may reflect not necessarily the importance of the action item, but the fact that it is contingent on an important action that has to happen
Yes,
first?
yes,
It
there will be
say
an
that somewhere?
introduction to
Okay,
the,
fine.
yes, yeah, good point. You're just seeing the chart right now, but there's an introduction.
I just don't want someone to read it and say, well, I think that's very important, and
I
then we
agree.
have to say, yeah, it is important, but this has to happen first.
Right, right, agreed.
I was thinking two, but with what Judy said, I'm thinking 3. It sounds like we have other stuff we need to sort out first and then get here. And it's marked as difficult in 7 to 10 years, and that, to me, kind of plays into it as well. It's important, but
I'll just repeat again, anything that helps promote generation revenues for the town, especially going forward, is very important, and we're talking about a specific area, if correctly developed and thought about,
And it's more important than 7 or 10 years. I think it's more important than 7 to 10 years. I think it's
Maybe I'm
important year
letting the
one.
timing way too much into my priority thinking.
Yeah, that's,
Right, no, I-
If I take that out of it, it's very important to do. It's a one, but if I think about,
Well, you're the,
Well, if we eliminate the 7 to 10 years,
yeah,
That's
then
it.
it becomes maybe.
it becomes a 1 real quick, doesn't it?
well, you with the planning board, and Judy, as a consultant planning board right now, are looking at zoning bylaw changes.
we're looking specifically at housing-related changes,
So
2, possibly 3. Depends on what the board
I
wants
would
to
put
do.
that at a 1, but I change from 7 to 10 years to 3 to 5 is what I would do. I think within 3 years, we need to address what we can do is in Mike's statement is to, get more revenue generating entities into town and be progressive in that area. For me, I think that's,
Yeah, that's what.
Well, and having an idea too, what's actually going on, so the housing changes, but what time frame are you all looking at?
I believe the board is planning on taking a couple of these to town meeting in May.
The bylaw changes, but
Oh, yeah,
actually getting it done?
we're working, I'm not sure I understand your
what do you
question.
mean getting it done? I don't understand either. We're putting it before the town to vote to change the bylaw on accessory dwellings is one, and we're also looking
The over
for,
55 bylaw, both of those will be going to town meeting.
I know what you're doing.
Oh,
What I was going to say is, what I was thinking as to when you get it done, is to what time frame you actually look at the zoning actually taking effect? Changing the zoning bylaw.
it takes
what you do.
effect upon passage, actually.
Okay. All right, I'm still not being clear.
Are you
Actually,
talking-
things happening,
Okay, you're talking about a developer or
It's up to
someone
the
coming and
market.
saying, oh, wow, there's a great opportunity. I'm
things
going in."
actually happening.
Totally market-driven.
All right.
But the market is churning right now.
Okay, so with all of that conversation, where do we want to go with this? Do we want to take it down to a 3 to 5 year timeframe?
I
Can
think
you
the
say 4 to
faster.
6?
reasonable.
Can you say 4 to 6 and not 3 to 5? We're actually
4
trying
to
to
6.
sort of make this
Yeah.
very consistent, 1 to 3.
My
4 to-
mistake was listening to Peter.
That's all right.
4 to 6 makes sense.
4 to 6, okay. Now, how about priority, folks?
How long you want your retirement to last?
I'm still sticking with my one.
Okay.
One.
1.
I'll cover for lunch.
You
guys
wrestle
out.
well.
All right. Thriving town, develop and institute business-friendly practices in town hall.
So one.
1.
it's all ones.
I know, that's what I'm
Well,
getting
that's
afraid
where
of.
we're going to push back, is that at some point, you've got to say,
Right.
when you resort this list and you see how many ones you've got, then you have to start thinking about, well, what does the town actually have the capacity to do
Yes.
in this
Okay.
block of time?
So first, first pass,
First pass is
what our
fine, say
gut
what you
says,
think, yeah,
and then, okay.
exactly.
Yeah, I had 2 for that.
Okay. Yeah, I'll do two. Two.
What the rest of you? Business friendly, right here. I thought this is-
Paula?
Look at some of these things, they're just priorities, they're not going to be any
We're still on
implementation
business
done to
friendly?
them.
Oh, one.
So,
2.
continue to support the point, ensure new development and redevelopment.
Yeah,
Ensure what?
sometimes these
Find them.
implementation plans really need to say, here's something you're doing well, so continue to do it. So it's not sort of lost, that it actually matters. So to your point, you're right, there may not be much more in the final chart than continue to do, but on something like, prepare an area plan and zoning, you're going to see in the final version of this some specific steps that need to happen. So, but we can't put those in here yet until we know what your priorities are, and also if the timing is going to change. Like if you said, we think this is a high priority, but it's not till 7 to 10 years out, then the specific implementation steps we add for something would account for the fact that within the sort of 10-year timeline of this implementation plan, you're only going to get so far. Whereas if something is a 1 to 3 year implementation, then you're going to plan more steps. Do you see what I'm trying to say? So, but on something like continue, it's just what it is.
Where do we want to come down on this, folks?
On 14, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. Develop and institute business-friendly practices in town hall.
See, without a lot of discussion, these residents that are here, is there any reason for them not to be able to say 1, 2, or 3?
You can say anything you want, but let's try to work through this, Peter. I appreciate that.
We're still in the town hall thing?
Yeah.
We're still at 1.
Which one?
Bartlett.
What number?
14.
I knew that.
14 of 66.
All right, there's a 1. Okay, so we got a bunch of 1s there. How
So
many?
where we were on 14, is it a 1?
All right, it looks like we're coming down on
Well, we
one.
gotta do 1 a minute.
Okay, 15, thriving town, improved transportation connections between area businesses and Littleton's MBTA computer rail station.
1. Yeah, Tom.
1.
3.
2.
I think it's a 2.
Arlet?
Torn between a 2 and a 3. I'm not sure yet.
Well, I'm on a 2 myself,
We'll slide it at 2.
because
You good with
transportation...
that? 2.
Peter,
Yes,
slow down just a little bit,
okay.
okay? We're not building a house today.
Town.
That's right. So it's gonna take a couple days longer than the house.
I built the earth in 7 days.
I was just going to say that.
Yeah.
I stopped myself.
And everyone with the ash has got, obviously been church.
There's a comment from
Can
the,
I ask a question? Does transportation connections also mean non-car mode transportation? Pedestrian,
Yes.
Means everything.
bicycles,
Right,
and
means
isn't
everything.
that pretty important to get people there?
It's important, and my personal take on how much everything's important in town, pretty much every one of the recommendations is important. So now we're just prioritizing them. So we're looking at allocation of resources, who's going to be able to do what, how many things can be done at the same time.
But
In fact, on this
specific
one-
to
This
his
was-
question, it's spelled out elsewhere in the plan that transportation connections include bike paths, sidewalking, et cetera.
Yeah, I'm just wondering how many people have actually watched, how many people are walking down Foster Street dangerously to get to the train station in the morning?
I know I've stopped to give people rides, I understand. What?
I water balloon.
just cause. Okay, keep rolling.
You heard that?
Right.
In the winter only.
Thriving town, ensure new development and redevelopment is sited and designed in such a way
So
that...
where are we, I just want to know what's the priority on that one?
Okay, not on 2.
2? Okay, sorry, guys.
Okay, thriving town, ensure new development and redevelopment is sited and designed in such a way that is consistent with the character of the zoning district and location within Littleton. I went with a 1.
Really?
The thing is, I thought there is, if we have a place that we like, let's say we have a really pretty historic number of homes in one area, let's go build a gas station. I'd say, I'd rather not do that.
I'm with you.
But that's not allowed now anyway, so does that affect its priority?
You're going to keep me from building a Corbusier house on Foster Street. How's that?
Nobody should ever frustrate a Corbu house, sorry.
I want to build one, so.
What do you think, Paul?
All except the insulation.
Paul, what do you think?
I just, was trying to make the point, I don't think that that's not an important item, I just think that since we already have prohibitions against it, how important is it in the context of things we need to address now or not?
Let me ask you, Peter, how many deviations or waivers is the planning board allowed to make when a developer comes in front of you all?
3,248.
Yeah. And you're really not far off the mark, are you?
No, actually, there are only, they can ask for variances on anything if they wish to.
True ask, but that...
Usually about 7 or 8. Is that about the number?
And-
Curbs,
and-
widening.
Right, but you're talking subdivisions.
Oh.
Planning, zoning waivers have to go to the zoning board of appeals.
Thing is a lot, and this, the verb is ensure.
I'll go, look, if it's important, I'll go along with one, people, underscore the importance of that concept.
Well, I think it falls underneath the work that's already going to be done with bylaws, doesn't it? So in a way, it already folds under something else. It's already a 1.
There's some things that we can't restrict somebody from if that's what they like. If they want to build a bloody teepee on something, if it meets all zoning requirements, we can't stop someone.
Well, it
Don't
depends on what
disagree.
you say in your zoning about what the standards are that people have to meet.
I think you said what I meant to think. I think. So is that a 2 or a 3?
But let's look at Northern Bank.
I think it's going
Two?
to end up sort of folding into the zoning work over time.
But I did have a
Oh,
clarification.
I'm sorry.
Does this go back to what we had discussed at the last meeting about neighborhoods and how neighborhoods look and feel and try to keep them in that way. Is that what this really is getting at?
It's a key part of it.
Yeah. So,
See, I'd like to see, like, when Northern Bank builds its buildings on Great Road, that we have some mechanism in place that we could encourage them, if just facades.
In the Village Common District, we do. We have that in place now.
That goes all the way down to the car place, right, the dealership?
Right.
Yeah, and it goes all the way up to the other end?
Mhm, right, and there's been just the one new building since that bylaw change was enacted, and that's the retail detail next to Acton Toyota.
All right, to put this one to bed, do we want to go to a 2 then?
2.
Two.
Yeah, right, we got,
Okay, thriving town, continue to support the point and look for opportunities to encourage the expansion of uses at that site, which can include the integration of housing.
It's 3, I mean, I don't know, it's already done.
3.
Well, on board with that?
Next number on 16 there.
Here it is. Thriving town, promote and increase support for local farms in order to maintain agriculture as a vital component of Littleton's economy.
Concept is 1. It's a little
1.
vague.
1.
Connor?
Well, the big part of it is that, again, the farms are part of somebody else's property and business in some particular cases. So in terms of promoting and increasing, there, I mean, all we can do is encourage. I mean, we really can't increase, right?
Well, we could do a lot more to promote them.
Increase support of them,
We could,
which is right. How do you,
well, if we had an aggressive town marketing effort, I can assure you the picture of farms, right now, if we could do that, we could sell Littleton in places where people can't afford to buy houses and condos and 300 square feet of space at a reasonable price.
Well, you also have in your bylaw now a special permit provision for some sort of farm-related business activity, which I don't think anybody's used. I mean, that's an, I don't know.
ski area was using the front of that for a little while. They were planting their own tomatoes and,
Right, not under that bylaw, though.
I mean, an example of something you could do to sort of further promote agriculture, pardon the split infinitive, is to make those opportunities by right subject to some performance standards. So it doesn't require a special permit. That's a way for a town to say, we really want this to work.
Yeah, I'm sticking
That's
with
just a
1.
thought.
okay.
All right, we're all good with 1? 1 it is. Thriving town, continue strategic use of tax increment financing, the TIF, to attract new businesses to Littleton.
I don't even know how this ended up in here, because we haven't even settled internally whether or not we support the concept, even though we have adopted it in a few cases. So we have, it's a
That's a selectman issue.
exactly, it's a TBD, to be determined.
Which,
3, kill it tonight.
If it's,
there's.
it assumes that there is an agreed upon strategic use. No, that hasn't been the case, but.
I see.
Yeah. It's been used, but every time it's been used, it's been, and I've supported the board, in doing it, but every time we bring it up, it's like, we don't have a policy in place in this, we don't really.
Do you want to strike the verb and set it, continue, develop?
Or make strategic use of?
No, because that assumes it was supportive of it, and that hasn't been
Or
determined.
maybe it's
Oh,
simply
it-
exactly that. I don't know what the words are, but determine if
Resolve
what
the
the
appropriate
strategy.
Re-examine or,
Resolve the
yeah.
Right, there you go,
What's
either
the
one of those I would be
appropriate
fine
use?
with,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's what we really need to
Yeah,
do.
the-
Re-examine and resolve
Yeah,
the
to be clear,
appropriate
though,
use of TIF.
And I'm flanked by 2 Board of Select members. The, where the Board of Selectmen is or is not on this issue is irrelevant to whether it's a good suggestion or not.
Well,
The suggestion stands on its own, not whether or not the board
it
is
stands on
chosen.
its own where did it come from?
I think from the process, just like
No,
all
the
these.
fact that it's been used, right? The fact that it has been implemented. Where else did it come from?
Yeah, you're 100% right.
Okay.
Or at least in my
so-
opinion.
No. So you're right back to where did it get used? The selectmen have used it because they've been approached by property owners.
So it's clear to you, Paul, no one mentioned TIFs during the whole process?
I just asked the question.
Oh, they were mentioned.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, they were mentioned and discussed.
To what end?
It was
Mixed.
Mixed, and in fact,
Okay.
the notion that was offered up for a determination to be made if it has strategic value is probably a good first
I
step to
think-
take on the part of,
What
responsible.
Melissa and Mike both hit on earlier, I could support, the need to re-examine and resolve the strategic use of,
I know.
the strategic value
Yeah.
of using,
Yeah, we can reword that. That's fine.
Okay.
That input is extremely helpful to us.
and then I would still call it a 3.
I got a 3.
I agree.
3 carry the
All right,
board, the
we'll go with
roll.
that. It's easy enough. Okay, community health and well-being. Update the Aquifer and Water Resource Protection District bylaw.
Oh,
What do we need to update it?
One, the reason for that is
Just a
because
little
some
out
of
of
the rules
sync
in
with
there
the
are
state.
restrictive and are unnecessarily restrictive, and some of them other areas need protection, so it should be looked at.
1.
That's not a hard one to do.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. You chose to use the word restrictive, right?
Well, in a sense, it discourages certain kinds of development, certain kinds of use, because our rules don't match up with physical reality and what's possible.
Well, physical reality that you could see,
Yeah, well,
but
yes.
it may match up with physical reality that you can't
Can't
see,
see,
which
if you
is,
can't see that
Yeah.
yeah.
Right.
In the exact instance is Dover Saddler had to buy land back in the woods in order to have enough land area to put 3 more parking spaces or whatever.
artificial recharge, right?
Yeah, for recharge and stuff like that, which was,
Right,
For the
which
most-
in areas close to the well, that's a good thing, but we have areas that are not close to the well and don't
Yeah.
directly recharge the aquifer that are still in the aquifer district.
Well, it is, it's a weird district, yeah.
okay, so priority is 1, good.
Is that what
Thank
you
you.
guys want?
I was unaware of the issue,
We
but
should
I'll
consult
defer
with
to the
public party
regulatory
if we
folks.
do these.
You.
Yeah, that puddle in your backyard's gonna count, so be careful. Okay, community health and well-being. Prepare a comprehensive trails plan to identify and prioritize opportunities to connect existing trails and open spaces to form a network of off-street trails for pedestrians and cyclists.
Yeah, I like that.
That's a 2 to me.
It's either 1 or 2 for me. I've got 2.
Something's gonna be a 2.
It's kind of
Mike?
like, yep, me too.
We can take 1 and 2? All right, moving on. Community health and well-being. Evaluate and institute policies to improve transportation connections to and from the schools.
1.
One,
Yeah, 'cause you get school buses now.
More than that.
Well, in my instance with this, is that where there's a number, because of the way they changed the way the kids get to and from school now, there's hundreds of people, many people drive their kids.
Right.
Because of the way that,
That's the issue.
the cost to take the bus is to me, didn't
And
make a lot of sense. Same
And
thing
there's
with.
there's no cost for students to park their cars at the school.
Pardon?
There's no cost for students
Right.
to park their car, and there
Right,
should
but
be.
there's lines to get in and out of there.
Oh, my God.
Cars lined right up to get in and to get out. Now Millie does a great job, but once again,
She's gonna
if those
get-
kids were on the bus, there'd be about 50 cars less there every morning.
That's the point.
Minimum.
That's the point.
So,
To me, that's a 1. They need to
They
change.
built the sidewalk on New Estate Road, and that's great.
I'd say 1.
But I still can't understand the kids that walk next to the sidewalk that's right there in the road. It isn't just
It's
kids.
kid logic.
okay.
Well, no, there's folks in the lunch hour from work that go out and do that too. It just-
They walk their dog in the street.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Sidewalk's right there.
we settled on a 1. Okay, next one, community health and well-being. Develop specific criteria to describe the town's priorities for acquiring open space.
This one's in progress, actually. We just got an update from CPC team last night. They had a proposal.
So what do we want to say?
2.
Yeah, it's underway, so.
I mean, it's good for the, actually, even if something's underway, it's good for the plan to sort of acknowledge that this needs to be done, and
Oh, yeah, sure, for sure.
It's more gravitas, yeah. 2?
Yeah.
Yep.
Community health and well-being. Undertake a food systems plan to inform town efforts to support local food production, processing, distribution, and sales as a way to help sustain Littleton's remaining family farms.
I don't know what that means.
Means promote the farms more broadly.
Didn't we just do that?
It means
That's
get,
what,
points
it means
ago.
advertise, this is
Well,
marketing and sales.
yeah.
get the schools to buy local produce.
Oh, I'd go well, I'm talking about planting the flag.
Well, even more than the schools, but
Yeah,
yeah,
more
at
than
the
the
very
schools.
least, the schools. Yeah, I mean, their problem is they all have to do bidding.
Capital letters suggest that there's such a thing as a food systems plan. You know, what is it?
If you want, this is Peters, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's essentially a much broader scale plan
Sustainability.
that looks at food production, food
Right.
consumption, food processing, the transportation elements of local food, and how all those things are connected together
So that you could actually support.
so that you can
local
support the
agriculture.
local agriculture.
Right.
Which is a lot more than volunteers are going to be able to do.
For sure.
I mean, you're talking
cool.
processing plants, you're talking transportation systems, distribution systems. That's not just
Do we know what
people sitting
the,
around the table.
well, let's assume we can get fresh strawberries from point A in Littleton to point B being the school system. Does all that stuff have to be inspected before stuff goes into a school? I'm just wondering.
I know we've purchased, the town through the schools has purchased local. John Overcash has done that and has a program. to
Apples and
continue
certain
doing it.
pears or whatever, the town produced stuff that doesn't have to go through any more
I don't
regulatory.
know what standards the school department has to meet.
Well, I mean, that's
Does-
the
does
easiest
food- Does
A
food
to
include
B.
this stuff coming out of the, I forget the name of the company, the Pepsi company that's now in Verify?
So we don't go too far down rabbit holes on all these
You get your
possibilities.
assisted living residents here, there'll be a good market to buy local produce.
Specific to the plan, do we think this is the most important thing, least important, in the middle? High, low, medium?
2.
3?
Are we talking about 24?
Yes.
Yes.
24.
24.
3. I think it's a
I call it
cool
3
idea.
too.
I love it. I just think.
Okay, we got a 2, we got a 3, we
Well,
got a
again, we're
3.
talking about a plan, creating the plan, it
Right.
doesn't talk about implementing the
Right.
plan. So if it's a plan and people think it's important, then it could be a 1.
Okay.
When we look at allocating resources to do things, and we prioritize within available resources, should town staff be working this or something else first?
That's why we were saying 3. Nobody listened, said 3.
That's what it says, yeah, 3.
I'm at 3. What do you think?
I got a 2. I got 2 3s and a 2. A 1,
2?
We'll go with a 2.
2.
2.
I mean, I don't think it's that much effort. Just talk to Mr. Overcash and say, buy local.
2.
2. Good call.
Okay. Community health and well-being. Partner with school department to involve Littleton Public Schools in nature education, maintenance of trails and wildlife lines, educational programming, and town conservation lands.
3.
Doesn't already happen?
No.
We used to catch butterflies all the time out in the field.
Nature's classroom, I guess that's probably the extent of it.
Demolition delays.
Should it be?
Why is mine different?
Should pay more attention when we say
the
partner.
backside.
Who's doing the partnering?
Yeah, I mean,
Wishful
it's-
thinking on
Well-
that part, right?
Get the Conservation Commission to give kids community service hours for going out and pulling weeds. I mean, there's.
They got a right to live, you
there's
know.
No, they don't. Invasives then.
There you go.
Right.
They can live someplace else.
Undocumented.
Judy, who's PNR in the
Two.
local government leadership?
I called it a 3.
Parks and Rec.
Oh, Parks,
How
thank
about
you. Yeah,
2.
sorry.
3, I don't know. No, I don't know, I guess kind of thought it was already happening, so if it isn't,
Yeah.
then 2.
2.
I thought it was already happened, so we're going with the 2?
2.
Hey, turning the page. 2. It's like a, as Paul Harvey would have said.
Bless you.
Okay, community health and well-being. Prepare, monitor, evaluate, and periodically update a community resilience plan tailored to Littleton to ensure that town's infrastructure and social economy systems can withstand the impact of climate change and other 21st century hazards, and incorporate recommendations of the resilience plan into the master plan as needed.
3. Commonwealth already has 5 offices devoted at least to.
Yeah, but not at the local level.
They'll come knocking at our our drought.
Town's infrastructure, social, and economy systems to withstand.
I got a 3.
3.
Did this come up again through public? I mean, when I see something I've never heard of before, I wonder where it came from.
Keith with this one in. I'm just trying to see Keith.
That's right.
There are people in your
Keith,
community
yes,
who are
Keith.
concerned about sustationability.
True.
Didn't suggest otherwise. I
You
just
know?
asked about
Yeah.
a community resilience plan.
It's a
We have 3
sustainability-
3s. What, any other
It's a
numbers?
sustainability term of art.
Paul? what's
Yeah,
your number?
no, I'm at a 3, given the way this thing is written. It has nothing to do with whether it supports sustainability or not.
The word's not even in there.
This is,
Resilience and
A lot of work.
sustainability are paired concepts.
what do you guys think?
So given that this is a new one, and don't understand the context of it, other than sounds like it was brought up by people in the community. Again, we're talking about creating a plan, and this talks about volunteer board and staff time, so I'd give it a 2.
Yeah, I'd much rather use our staff that we pay them to do a lot more things that they're not doing right now ahead of this. That's why it's a 3 for me.
Yeah.
Well,
I would accept 3.
without more information, then that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, I would leave it as a 3 because it's a plan. I mean, if it was a specific thing, get the building inspector to, or the town bylaws to require net zero houses instead of, the code minimum, I would go with it, but I think this is too vague.
I gotta tell you, if the way the houses are built now and what they make you do for energy codes,
It's way improved, I know that.
it's improved, but it's also killing people, as far as I'm concerned. Houses are too tight.
Oh,
People
well,
are
We're
getting
not
sick.
lighting them, but we're not going to discuss
Yeah.
All right,
that.
let's
Just-
move on.
They
Community health and
make you
well-being.
bring air in.
Establish a local funding source for walking and cycling improvements across town.
I think we're already into some of this already.
Do you have a systematic
Local
appropriation
funding
every year
source.
for pedestrian and bicycle improvements?
No,
I think that's the
The
issue.
road.
2 on this one.
it's certainly something that people want,
yeah.
Well, that came up
thousands of
Everywhere, all
times,
the
yeah,
time.
Yeah.
everywhere.
I mean, it is in the town's capital plan, but it's not, probably, certainly not aggressive enough to meet interest in it.
Are we at a 2 at this, folks?
I'm a 3.
2.
2?
I can go
2, this is a potential generator.
All right, community health and well-being. Ensure public safety officials have enough staff and equipment to handle today's needs, as well as the needs of growing and changing resident population. Well, that's kind of a 1. But
Yep.
I would give it a 3. but-
what enough means is debatable.
Yeah.
Certainly from time to time.
something that's going to need ongoing assessment.
Yeah.
Yes. For
And I
me,
think-
one of my feeders is safety. If it impacts the safety of our citizens, it shoots right to the top for me.
I think that one of the underlying issues here is that when towns like yours are growing, people tend to focus a lot on the schools, which is important because, for all the reasons that
Right.
schools are important. But it's not the only service that's affected by growth. And some types of growth have, greater impact on public safety than other. And I think we're trying to sort of drive home the point here that quality municipal services really do affect everything about your town, including its
And the good
housing
news is
values.
happening, like, both chiefs have strategic plans.
Yes, I know, they do, that's
I
right.
wonder
That
what
was
we
part of it.
accomplished by putting this in there. I mean, what's the alternative? Don't ensure public safety officials have enough
No, I
staff?
think it's
mean,
putting emphasis
Emphasis,
on the
yeah.
importance of paying attention to
Okay,
this.
we all content with 1?
Yes.
All right, moving on.
It's a field.
Community health and well-being. Establish a coordinated effort to identify and remediate invasive species on public land. Work to educate private landowners on removal of invasives with a focus on large commercial and industrial properties. I have that as a 2 myself.
Yeah.
7.
Two.
I'm 3.
I'm-
He's 3.
I'm
You're
happy
2?
with the 2. I mean, I think it's an important issue.
Donna?
2, I can go with 2.
Let's go with 2, folks.
Assuming these are for us to take.
Okay, community health and well-being. Evaluate the impact on climate change on natural resources and water supplies and draw up appropriate mitigation policies and plans. Establish open space corridors and riparian buffers.
Riparian.
Yeah, thank you. And buffers that anticipate future increase in temperature and participation.
This really ties back to the whole resiliency planning issue.
Evaluate the impact of climate change. Who do we have on staff that can evaluate climate change?
The first people who are going to see it are the folks who run the electricity and the water supply. They're going to notice what's going on probably before anyone else does, what the trend line looks like after years. That's climate change. That's
But more AC,
long-term.
less heat?
What?
More AC, less heat, more water in the lawns?
Well,
less-
it's water consumption versus, it's not worth going into detail, but they're going to see it first, and I don't know anybody else in town I do know that the Commonwealth has it, and maybe for the next 30 seconds, the feds have it, but, you know, I don't know.
This, the fourth word to here, on, probably should be evaluate the impact on of climate change.
Yes.
You say?
Good point, yeah, you're right.
3.
3.
Mike? Bartlett?
Well, yeah, I would give it a 3, but only because the town really isn't equipped to deal with it in a thorough, reasonable way.
Anna?
3.
Okay, we got a 3. Community well-being, establish a training and education program for site contractors, landscapers, facility managers, and others to learn about best practices for reducing stormwater runoff and pollution, dealing with invasive species, reducing the use of toxic pesticides, and herbicides, and maintaining lands in a way that enhances protection of native species.
They're all from Peter. This was the additional detail on those recommendations that.
That's right.
Yeah.
3.
3.
2.
Anna?
I say
You
3,
know-
One second.
Go ahead.
well, my reason for it is that I already have to take all kinds of courses and things just to keep my contractors licensed as it is. Landscapers, some of them in order to put down certain herbicides have to be licensed to do it. There's already 10,000 things, and it would be another goddamn expense.
So is that something that you actually have to pay for when you?
Yeah, you gotta pay for all the classes, you gotta pay for your license, you gotta pay for your insurance. They're taxing us and insuring us to death. So I say it's a 3. It's not that I wouldn't like to see everybody be knowledgeable about what they're putting into the ground and stuff, but to make another goddamn, law that we have to take a test to know what we're doing, that, to me, it's no. I would rather things be stricken.
I wouldn't go to the point of thinking this is requiring some kind of a test or a fee.
Establish a training and education program. Who's
Right.
gonna pay for it?
Well, that's why I was asking,
Yeah.
if you pay for it, then yes, it would have to be the people who are involved.
Yeah, well, if you're gonna turn around and say, well, you need to have this license in order to come and do work in Littleton, people say, don't have the license, I'm not gonna go get it to do one job.
And that's just a piece, because, again, who do we have on staff that has instructional development qualifications?
Well, we got 3 3s and a 2.
I just go back to a point of analysis I try to use in all of these. It's like, have I ever heard anybody in town bringing up this as a issue? I mean, invasive species are an issue, use of pesticides and herbicides are an issue, but there are also things in place to address it, as you pointed out. I don't know, I don't consider this a priority.
We settling on a 3? 3. The community health and well-being, prepare individual management plans for town conservation areas and recreational facilities.
Sure, that makes sense.
Folks want a 1?
I can.
One it is.
vote on that.
Community health well-being, provide public education on agriculture, including potential farm education programs such as Massachusetts Audubon's Drumlin Farm in Lincoln. I guess I have to take a look at Drumlin Farm.
3.
3.
Others?
Is that really a town responsibility?
Right.
That's a great question.
Your right to farm town.
Say it again.
With the
Your right
right,
to farm town.
Yeah.
You've adopted right to farm here, have you not? So I just think anything around education, around agriculture, and sensitizing people to the fact that these are businesses, and what does it take to have a viable farm business, I think probably is something that kind of goes hand in hand with
Right.
wanting to protect those
Right.
farms, or make it possible for those farms to thrive, so.
Did our Ag Commission have any input on this?
The Ag Commission's been met with a couple of times.
I mean, did they recommend this?
I can't say specifically what they've recommended. We've been working on this for a while, we've talked to lots of different people, and some of these themes come up in more than one domain.
I think it's a valid concept, but I'm still going with 3. I think of all the things we need to pour
It's
resources.
something that can be implemented, I think, in the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, in the school system to
That'd be great.
teach kids about where food really comes from and what it takes to do it. And it'd be kind of fun to have a kid go out and pick weeds for a day in the 90-degree sun.
Well, it relates back to that
I did it. It wasn't a lot
recommendation
of
about
fun.
So to
involving
that
the
point,
schools.
though, if it's a school issue, does that mean school committee should be on here? I mean, because of the curriculum
that's a good
aspect
point.
of it.
When I went
Well,
to
that-
school here, we did take a trip to Drumlin Farms. I mean, does it not happen anymore? I don't know.
Issues, you know, if
School
that Mike's
committee
not
should
here,
be
so
in
he
there.
could certainly speak to curriculum.
Right.
And adding
But if
curriculum
that's what we're
items.
talking about in terms of where it lies, then it should be in the,
I think that's probably
No, I
part of
agree.
it.
I agree.
That's probably a big part of it, but there's probably other education things we can do that don't require the schools for adults, you know.
and the same would then go for number 25. Right, in terms of,
Yes.
We could also charge people who don't live in Littleton to come in and have their kids come over, and we charge them $10 a day
To pick weed,
to do whatever.
So now you're in Park and Rec territory.
get invasive
Well, I
plants.
mean,
Who's gonna do the providing? If we wanna say encourage,
I think if
could buy
we
that.
start putting a big old bloody number to some of these things, our priorities will change.
Oh, yeah.
Because provide, I just don't see us having the resource in this town to do something like that.
All these
Because I'm-
verbs required nouns, don't
Yeah,
they? So
because I'm
providing.
seeing public education, not K through 12. Yeah. Notice as I'm reading this, it's like educate the community. Right. At large, and it's a resource drain.
it could be
Well,
break
Three.
even again if you want to actually provide it
No.
and charge for
It's a
it.
question of where do you want to put your resources, I guess. And
That's priorities, yeah.
that's why we're doing the prioritization, you're right.
I'm at a 3
You know,
personally,
3.
folks.
Okay, what number are we on, 34?
33.
33. Dang, I already had a bunch of threes down there, I thought we went by that.
All right, we're done.
So is that a 3, is that what you're saying?
Okay, 34, community health and well-being, improve transportation options for Littleton seniors and residents with disabilities.
One,
One.
One,
And we're doing that. We've got a second van
good.
in the works.
Okay, community health and well-being, construct a multi-purpose intergenerational community center that meets the needs of all residents in Littleton.
one.
Sure, I'll do that one.
Yeah, one.
one,
Okay, we're all on that. 36, community health and well-being, implement the recommendations of the comprehensive analysis of recreation facilities and fields.
One.
We go with one.
That's a sort of an endorsement of that report, is that correct? Is that what we're saying?
Well,
here?
what my hope is that's not just an exercise, a fruitless exercise. I want to be able to use the recommendations out of it. Now, it could be that I don't personally agree with them when they come out, but I want that thing, like the master plan, to be something we use, and it's a dire need, so hopefully it's on the right track, so I'm just assuming it will be.
Well,
Okay, so you're saying, the word implementation means, we're saying they should do this as a priority X.
Yeah, that's tricky. I guess what I mean is we definitely need to do something, and we're doing this analysis to get feedback on what we should do, but there could be some debate. Maybe we don't exactly do what they say. You're right.
That's,
So-
So get rid of
Implement's
implemented.
not
we
the
change
right
it to,
word then.
change the implement to evaluate, and evaluate and then implement?
Right, because implement could actually mean we want 3 new fields at the cost of
Yeah.
X million dollars.
Yeah,
Yeah, let's be
exactly.
careful how much of our personal opinions come into
Examine
this
recommendations of the
versus
comprehensive
versus what we've
analysis.
heard. Okay, we've heard from community members quite a bit about doing a comprehensive analysis of all the fields
okay, yeah.
and actually use that analysis. So that's what that, implement the recommendation, I think is synonymous with what I just said there.
Okay.
So I had it as a 2.
I have it as a 1.
One.
I'd say one.
It depends on the word, but in terms of following up on analyzing the recommendations and determining what the next steps are, that should be a 1.
Okay.
We'll do one, yeah,
One.
do it that way, yeah.
Yeah,
Like the way you just said, the analyzing the recommendations and determining next
It
steps.
says
It's
that
an H, I think.
that one doesn't have a cost associated with it?
Are we changing the wording?
Yeah, right now.
Assuming that it's not, the word, this implementation is free?
No, nothing is, as you know well. No, what we're going to do tonight also is speak more about granularity on cost recommendations. And you'll notice on many of these, there's no cost recommendation at the time, and that's only because RKG has not developed one yet for us.
It just says staff time, it doesn't have any dollar signs at all next to it.
It's going to have a lot of dollar signs.
So we're saying that's a 1 to implement regardless of how many dollar signs are next to it?
What we're hearing is from the people in the community, not we.
You're,
Communities-
you're saying that it's a 1 regardless of the number of dollar signs
No.
No.
to implement?
well, there's been a bunch of dollar signs always up community health and well-being, there's been Moderate, how did you pick this
So I'm
one
asking
to
what
question the
implement
dollar sign now, after all these others?
Right, we're on number 40 something.
Yeah, and why is the dollar sign all of a sudden?
Let me
I
just-
think it will be addressed later, is what we had intended to do, correct? We're trying to go get
Can
a
I just-
ratings of such, then go to monetary values?
I just have a comment. Bear in mind that part of what's going to be in this plan is a process for evaluating the plan and updating it or modifying it as you go along. So we're kind of assuming that, like we're trying to think about resources and capacity and so forth, that anybody else working on planning here is doing the same thing. So I don't think it's wrong to assume that somebody's going to be thinking about resource allocation when they're working on this analysis. If it turns out that the recommendations of that plan are to do 3 fields at once and you know it's ludicrous, you can always evaluate and modify this plan.
How about this is just a clause that will address both those, but implement the recommendations of the comprehensive analysis of recreational facilities and fields, comma, as a part of the town's ongoing capital planning process? I mean, in that case, as every other project goes up against competing projects for a finite number of dollars. So that enforces or underlines the notion that you're not automatically funding everything, it's just going into the capital plan.
I thought we had changed the word from, instead of implement, examine the recommendations of the comprehensive. I thought we changed the word so that,
I can live with that too. I don't know.
I thought
liked
we already
what Ann-
discussed that, didn't we?
Want to say that?
What did you say?
Yeah.
Examine or evaluate.
Yeah.
And then she said, and determine next steps, so it's not like just look at it and
Yeah.
then do nothing.
Oh,
Like,
that's
Which doesn't
good.
give
That
a
works.
blank number.
My only comment is, the implement implies. the
We
with
just
the
got rid
no-
of implement.
With the no, okay, that's fine. It was just with the reduced, the cost has nothing next to it. Everything else has.
Good
a
point.
cost.
It shouldn't read that
You
we're
could have
gonna
a dollar
endorse
sign
it
without
wholeheartedly.
Question marks, right, but it appears to be free, which it's not.
It's not.
So importantly, a bit about the comprehensive
Sorry.
I'd
plan.
say as part of the
capital-
Evaluate
town's
recommendations of the
capital.
No, what I
plan
want
and
to add to
determine
that
next
is,
steps.
every one of these is going to be evaluated that way, is not, for the most
We
part.
need to do the same.
Sometimes it's stated in here and sometimes it's not.
No, I think we have the exact.
Are we all
same
happy with that? So is it a 1? What'd we end up, guys?
One.
This
I
is,
want one.
All right. Number 37, community health and well-being. Continue to update the Fleet Streets prioritization plan and align the recommendations with the town's capital improvement plan and this master plan. So there's your capital improvement plan.
Right, here it is.
Makes sense. I mean, there's nothing more to do, right?
Well, it's ongoing, it is happening, but I think it needs to continue to be updated. I don't know, two, it's not like it's a burning
You
priority.
guys just get it. Going.
I'll go with the 2.
Just got a grant.
2, folks?
Two.
It is. Community health and well-being. Prepare and implement a comprehensive strategy to protect surface waters and aquifers and the watersheds that feed them. Do we pretty much just follow state and federal law on these things?
Well,
God, I hope not.
No,
out loud?
wait a minute.
You want us to say yes or no?
No, make me smarter because we're not following, you'd rather we
No, I
not follow
think,
state and
I mean,
federal
a
law?
really good example of where, many communities would say the state laws alone are not adequately protective, or towns that have a local wetlands bylaw, which I think you do here. And
Yeah.
that's because there are resources or resource areas that are not adequately protected by the State Wetlands Act, but communities, under their home rule authority, can adopt more protective bylaws.
Okay, so it wasn't your hope not, we follow the law, it's that we do more than the law
Yeah.
requires.
We do more than the federal.
Well, that
Okay.
you do what needs to be done.
That's a
Yeah.
big
But
difference.
this is similar to the revising the wetland, or the watershed protection.
Well,
maps.
it is. I mean, zoning accomplishes certain things, but it is not the be-all and end-all of resource protection. In fact, it's
Not when it
actually a
comes to the
pretty
state.
blunt tool.
You're right.
Okay, so how do we want to?
I wish that this point would acknowledge that we actually have been ahead of the curve on groundwater protection. I know this speaks to surface water locally, and that maybe we should continue to, press measures that protect surface waters.
And I would say measures and staffing with Corey Godfrey on the staff at Littleton Water Department. He provides a lot of service to the town with reviewing plans.
Right.
When I went to the focus meeting, I discovered that there were about four parts to this issue, and a lot of the people had never spoken to each other.
Yeah.
So I mean, you didn't put this in, it's, speak
Uh,
to each other.
We also have a Clean Lakes Committee, I know, because
Yeah,
I
yeah, it's the
established
same
it 20
idea. In
years
other words,
ago.
information is
And it
being
has
lost.
funding, from a dedicated revenue source. I mean, this implies that we're not doing anything, when in fact we are.
Well, bear in mind, you're looking at a chart right now that's going to be part of a plan.
Right.
And back in the plan, we do talk about the things that the town is already doing and that the town
You
has
mentioned
done.
the Clean
So
Lakes Committee and
I-
its funding through the cell tower.
if we didn't, we'll make sure we do, but there's plenty
I don't
in
think that's a
that.
minor point. We've
No, no,
got-
I
we've
don't
been
either.
proactive about these
I don't
things.
think
Okay,
it's
let's stick
minor, I'm
with,
saying that,
hold on, stop.
Oh,
Because
one.
if we keep on this deep on
Yeah.
everyone, we're here till next week.
yeah.
Do we want this as a 1?
I want different wording. I think it implies that we haven't, don't have a comprehensive
work quite a
strategy.
lot.
I think we do. Our Water Department and our Lakes Committee work hand in hand and have a funding resource.
Compared to, how about if we
Is there a comprehensive strategy in the town of Littleton?
continue?
Not whether or not folks are working together, is there a comprehensive strategy?
I believe there is. I think you ought to
Okay,
contact
does
the
anybody else
Water
believe there
Department.
is?
We just don't know what it is.
If
We know that
it
people are doing
exists,
things.
It
We do
never
know
made its
that.
appearance at a place that you'd expect to hear about it.
This asserts that we've studied the issue and we have this conclusion. And to say, I don't know if there's a plan or not,
Excuse
is
me.
unacceptable.
We
No,
had,
well, when we've asked the question and we don't get it, then we have to assume that a comprehensive strategy doesn't exist. That yes, there are entities here that are working on this issue diligently, but we've never seen a comprehensive strategy. So that's why we would have this wording in there.
Can we change it to continue to improve and implement a comprehensive strategy, or leave out?
I
Continue
can live
to
with that.
improve a comprehensive strategy to protect. Let's leave it at that. Would
Get
that
that.
be, and that would be a relatively important thing for us?
Yes.
Because, all right, and we'll put it as a 1?
Give it the words,
Prepare with
continue to improve.
Continue to improve a comprehensive strategy to
I like
protect
that
us from
because
there on.
Anytime we have the word implement, that just
Yeah, it has a dollar
conjures a
sign.
lot of
back.
dollar signs.
Okay, we're all settled.
Wouldn't wanna-
Equitable
So that's a
development.
1.
Is this
You got
equitable
credit.
development or supposed to be
I don't care
economic
about the credit, I
development?
just don't want.
I'm on number 39.
what?
Equitable.
Equitable is the correct word?
Yes.
Right. Overhaul and update the over 55 housing bylaw to make it more effective for creating senior housing options.
We've got this in there because it's happening. so-
Yeah.
Happening.
So 1? Right.
One.
Continue there in the sidebar. Equitable development. Encourage small accessory apartments on owner-occupied residential lots.
One.
Would we go with that one? I'm sorry, I lost you on a
That's also-
number.
Both on here.
Encourage small accessory apartments on owner-occupied residential lots.
Right.
That's the one in front of town meeting.
That's a
also
1.
in-
And the
that's-
reason I say it's a 1 is because it'll help keep the elderly in town where they get some added income, just to be able to stay in their
Right.
properties.
And
And it will be self-regulated, without question.
Should it be encourage or allow?
It's
Are we
gonna end up
telling
being
people
allowed.
that Anyone can, you're gonna encourage people to do it, or you're going to allow people to do it?
Well, there's a big, the way it's drafted right now, it would be encouraged because it would be allowing them as a right.
You're right, which is good.
Allow
Am I
would
getting an
be,
incentive to do it?
No,
Then
there's
you're
no
not
ins-
encouraging me to do it.
allowing by right is an incentive.
All right, where do we think this is, folks?
I got it as a 1.
One.
Well, it's,
1?
One.
Okay, 1 it is. Equitable development. Adapt an inclusionary housing, help me with that word. Inclusionary housing bylaw to require affordable housing in new residential or mixed-use developments.
One.
Yeah, that's gonna be another
Okay,
one,
moving
I
on.
think.
Okay, continuing equitable development. Revise the town's open space development bylaw to remove special permit requirements and provide incentives to landowners and developers, while greater density while protecting woodlands and farms, and loosen restrictions placed on open space so as to protect against reducing the value of farmland.
There's a lot, that's a big mouthful, but a lot of it actually makes very good sense for us to try and protect our larger areas.
We were trying to sort of say, like, when you work on this, these are things you need to pay attention to.
I think
And
it's a
if there's a
good,
criticism of the open space development bylaw is it doesn't get used enough, or when it does get used, it doesn't achieve enough.
it has its moments.
Right, yeah.
And I think that if we start implementing a few things in different ways, then we'll get more of it. And we just need to make sure that,
Okay, so is that a 1 for us?
that's a 1 for me.
yeah.
Yeah.
Judy, what did you, what is loosen restrictions placed on open space? What were you
I
referring
think
to
you want to
there?
make sure that you're not requiring the placement of open space or location of open space in ways that might,
I don't know.
end up kind of
Okay.
reducing the value of the farmland is all.
What we were trying to do on the Cooper land.
Yes, ma'am. AM 43, LHC, Littleton Housing Commission?
Where are we?
Historical.
Historical, okay. Okay, building local capacity. Make CPA funds available to support the Littleton Historical Commission. Members wishing to attend statewide preservation conferences.
This is really about helping them be aware of what's going on statewide in terms of historic preservation and just being able to access. There's a lot of education and training out there that boards and commissions go to from all over the state, but they need to be able to have their expenses covered.
For me, relative to the whole plan, that's a 3. It's not the first thing we're going
But
to make sure.
see-
gets
Well, you
done.
see, the CPA funds is not something that costs,
It's easy to
the
do.
individual. I think
Very easy
that,
to do.
Let me ask.
I just think if
my first
the
priority.
historic commission members want to go to the conferences, then it should be addressed in the budget process, and I don't remember that request being made and denied. CPA funds, I don't know, I see that being more for more permanent changes.
Well, it was in the
purchases.
recommendations that we gave you before, but
Yeah.
this actually was also addressed back in the historic resource chapter, the draft.
I think they get about $50 a year, correct?
That's not atypical for small towns, you
Yeah.
know, and so it's not
Right,
really
so
enough to do it.
I think if we can, send somebody through CPC funds,
Yeah.
which is, I'm gonna give it a 2, not a 3, personally. Because they may be able to go to something and get some information on
That's
way to
right.
protect some of our properties through the
right.
state funding area. I
That's
think it
the
wouldn't be
point.
bad.
It's also important for recreational folks to go to conferences and
Yeah.
environmental folks, so why are we just?
Because in this
addressing
instance-
historic?
Because CPC can fund historical.
And they can also fund recreational and housing.
I don't think they can fund, they
Yeah, oh,
can,
yeah.
they can fund certain portions of the recreational thing, but-
Recreation on land acquired for open space with CPA funds.
Yeah, so it's different as far as their
Not
education.
conferences.
I
They may be
understand
able to.
I'm confused though. So like Monday night, we just agreed with the allocation of CPC funds and there's a good 10% for historic. Why couldn't that be used for this? Can that not be
Well,
used for?
Yeah, well, isn't that
that.
what this
I
said?
don't think you can use the bucket for this kind of
You
expense.
can't, okay.
So what's the difference between 43 and 49? They just seem very familiar, or it's very similar, I mean.
Because one is really about capacity building and the other is about projects.
And that's exactly what I was getting at 49. I'm like, we have that bucket of money, so why can't we just say, okay, the people that control what happens in that bucket prioritize the training if they want to do that, but it sounds like that's not an eligible item for the bucket. You have to actually put it in the budget. Is that?
For training specifically?
For training.
It's a question, I think the bigger question here is, how do you want to allocate, how should the town sort of be allocating CPA funds to address preservation needs? I think that's the bigger question here.
Yeah,
And
that makes more
Where's that?
sense. Back to 49.
Relative to high, medium, low. Where is
I'm gonna
this?
say 3.
3?
I feel like we can do this already today somehow.
Right.
So you think we can figure it out?
Something's not quite clicking with me unless Judy, you're saying definitely that CPA funding, that 10% that we put this year.
I don't believe it can be used for that kind of expense. I'll find out for you.
That'd be great, because
I
if we
will
can
find
already
out.
do it, it's like, oh, okay.
All right, so we're going with 3s for
Yeah.
presently?
I've never heard of a few twos.
Okay, building local capacity. Create a transportation advisory team to coordinate on transportation issues across departments and across modes of transportation. Advisory team.
We already have this?
I thought we had a,
We used to have an MBTA advisory committee, but that's not a
2.
generic transportation advisory committee.
I got a 2.
Mike?
2.
Paul?
3. I don't know what it is.
2.
So it doesn't exist?
No. No, it doesn't exist.
Harvey? Bob, excuse me.
I would say 2. That's.
2 it is.
2 carries.
It goes to a lot of issues.
Building local capacity. Hire a full-time facilities manager who would be responsible for the maintenance of town and school buildings as well as development of long-term maintenance and replacement plans.
We had one. Just went around and gathered everybody's independent plans and put them in one big ring, 3-ring binder.
You had one?
We had one, yeah.
Yeah,
There you go.
They had higher, huh?
Yeah.
They had poor high.
2 years into our stay, we had a budget problem and the position was eliminated. Life went on.
That's a long time ago.
I got a 3. We got someone we got somebody in charge of every building as it is now. Have each one of them write up an implementation.
Two on
Already,
that.
already happened, that's the thing.
So there it is. So
Two, I'd like to get one person in there.
I got a 3.
Two.
I'm at a 3 also.
We just hired an assistant town administrator, we still don't have any idea what he does yet, so why don't we just give him that title? It's true, nice guy.
Systems guy, you don't know.
I think it would make sense because the
Folks,
buildings aren't
folks.
maintained right. That'll go with,
Okay.
I mean, it's not the highest priority.
So what is this?
We're almost there. Anna?
Okay, sorry.
So it sounds like we already do have people in all the buildings,
We do, yes, school has full-time and,
so it's a function of
Yeah, but the schools are falling
three
apart.
coordinated.
okay, so 3 it is.
That's a different issue though.
3 it is.
Well, if we had somebody in charge of the whole thing.
We're going to continue. Building local capacity, establish a master plan implementation committee to promote and implement of this plan, to evaluate the town's implementation progress and to recommend plan amendments as needed to the Littleton Planning Board.
Yeah.
One.
Promote implementation, there's an extra word in there.
I had sent you a note,
Yeah, yeah.
and we discussed this at the last meeting, it was Board of Selectmen, not the Planning Board.
Right.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Right.
That's my fault.
Okay.
That's a 1.
Yep.
Okay, building local capacity, evaluate current functions of the planning department to determine whether the town would benefit from having an economic development coordinator or director.
One.
I think we're all agreement there?
As long as it's evaluate, I'm okay with
Yeah,
one.
evaluate, yeah.
Building local capacity, establish a municipal affordable housing trust in order to build local capacity for housing advocacy, housing finance, and housing development.
This is kind of paired with the inclusionary zoning bylaw, because that bylaw will probably have a provision in it for developers to pay, under some circumstances, a fee in exchange for instead of creating affordable units, and you need an entity to receive and segregate those funds from the general fund. So you need something.
So that probably makes sense, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a fund?
You have to create this, yeah, you have to create this entity, because you need to be able to segregate developer payments from the general fund.
We already processed some of the fees we got for like the building right up by you, PJ, and some of, the finance director has some sort of process in place. I don't know if you had any discussion with her about how this would fit in with the current.
This is in your housing plan, and Keith specifically brought this up as well.
Keith did.
Yeah, no,
Yes,
there's been a push to get a housing trust.
Yeah, I just don't want to, I don't want to catch the finance people off guard on that and
Yeah.
make sure that it works with.
The only way that it works without a housing trust is you end up having to set up a special grant, a separate grant account for each time a developer pays a fee, and it's not what you want to do.
Right.
So Mike?
Sure?
Yeah.
One.
Okay.
Talking.
Peter?
So this is
like
the
an
one in your
escrow
book?
account.
This is the one in your book, isn't it?
If you're going to do inclusionary zoning, you need to do this too.
And Mr. Montanari is all for that coming up real quick, right? So it's a 1. I'm going with 1.
Me too.
I had a little bit of fun there for a short period of time.
I don't know with who,
So
though.
funny.
Huh?
2.
One.
All right,
What's that?
1 goes.
For-
Okay, legacy, reconsider the current allocation of the annual CPA funds dedicated to historic preservation.
So this is our 43 and 49?
This is about projects, I think.
Well, you've got a general recommendation to increase the historic allocation from
Right.
CPC to, what, I think 16 in one place and 20 in another place.
Well, we replaced those specific recommendations based on the last meeting feedback to reconsidering the current allocation, because I think some members were uncomfortable with us stating whether it should be higher or
Yeah,
lower at
it's a
that point in
plan,
time.
the overall master plan to suggest.
Is anybody on that CPA board?
Yeah, I am.
All right. How do you come up with saying who gets money and who doesn't get money? Does you vote something, then it goes to town meeting, and the town
Right.
decides whether or not the money goes,
Right,
right?
we've, in the last couple of years, we've established, at the beginning of the year, we've established a goal of, 20% or 30% or whatever for each category. And then we've tried to make the projects that we get come in the door fit in those allocations. So there's a goal that we have. We did that partly so that the blended funds and the state match that we get would be allocated in the same way, in the same percentages, which is a way of trying to control Keith a little bit.
Okay, so as it stands relative to the entire plan, reconsider.
Reconsiders, yeah, I think.
Sure. Fine.
High, medium, low.
2.
Two it is. Okay, page 3.
It's gonna,
Okay, legacy, update the demolition delay bylaw by extending the demolition period beyond 1 year.
No. I think most decisions can be made about whether or not something's gonna get demolished for any reason or something within a year. Any longer than that, you can tie up, you know, the sale of a house that someone needs to get the heck out and go.
So 3.
To me, it's a 3.
to me, it's a 1.
Longer than a year?
No,
If you, let's say your house is suspect and you wanna go, and someone's not gonna
Well-
buy unless they know they can do something to
right
it.
now, it's 6 months, I believe, so
Is that what we have now, 6 months?
6 months. I would say a year minimum, but
It's
Is this
right here, it says
protect
beyond
historic-
1 year.
Is the intent to protect historic buildings or is it to protect rights?
It's to protect historic buildings.
yes.
It's really not protecting a right.
Now, there's only
What's the idea of extending it? I'm not arguing, I just want to know the information. the
Because if
connection.
people have to wait a little longer to take down a house, they might consider other alternatives to tearing it down. And, you know, this is a policy issue for you guys, but part of what I think we're trying to say is, when you get into kind of a growth mode in a community, there starts to be a lot of pressure placed on older housing stock. And so, you know, you are going to see an increase in tear down as more demand happens here. That's what's going to happen. And so I think you have to decide, do you want to try to forestall some of that and perhaps encourage people not to do full tear downs? You can do that by extending demolition delay. It's not a historic preservation district. It's not like that.
The efficacy of any particular time is not the most important thing right here. How important is it to reconsider this or update it from the master plan
3.
perspective? How important is it?
I would give it a lot of importance.
Above, so
Because-
it's as important as like the implementation committee and everything else we said a 1 is?
The character of the town is very important to the people who came to the meetings, and yes, it's as important.
I agree with you, but what my question ends up being, is this for historical buildings or things that are over certain ages, or is it a two-room camp down Long Lake that you can or can't tear
It was
down?
triggered by the age of the building.
Everything that's on the,
Register?
no, not on the register, 'cause there's only a couple of houses in town that are that, but everything that's qualifies for the survey.
The survey.
So it's
that's right.
50 years or older,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. So it's
Again, there's some
basically
camps down
registered
Long Lake that are 60, 70 years old, and if someone throws up say, well, I want to,
Right, but, okay, so if we go to change that bylaw, we'll have that debate. Question is, how soon do we ask?
That's my point. How important
Should
is
the
it?
language though say beyond 6 months, because what it is currently is 6 months, right? So the discussion would be to extend it beyond 6 months.
I would say, I think what we would be saying is at least 1 year.
So the reason why it reads this way is our original recommendation from the last meeting that we went over. There were a couple of members that didn't want it to say 1 year, they wanted it to say beyond 1 year so that it didn't limit it to just 1 year.
Right.
If you wanted to do 18 months or 24 months or whatever, this recommendation would give you the freedom to do that. That's the only reason why it's written that way.
Saying beyond 6 months gives you the freedom to do any range of things about.
Okay, but we're just
beyond.
responding to what.
Same thing with
That's
1
what we
year.
heard at the last meeting.
Because you also had members that didn't want anything more than 6 months that already exists. So the thing
I
is,
think a
again.
year, it ended at a year is fine, but again, beyond 6 months, could be 6 years. When's it
You
gonna,
know,
when's it?
I want
when are
to
the-
just for, I don't want to drag this out,
Yeah.
but, you know, we're getting input from a lot of different people, and one of the things we did early on, as you probably remember, is all those core assessment meetings. So one of the groups we met with was the Historical Commission and the Historic Preservation Interests, and they have concerns. So the question is, are those concerns going to be represented in this plan, even if they're not your concerns?
Well,
That's
I-
not-
We
that's not
didn't
the
make this
question.
stuff up. I mean, we
No, no, no.
heard this.
Nobody's debating whether to include this in
Okay,
the
all
plan.
right.
It's just how important is it?
Yeah.
Is it the most important thing we do or the least important thing? Or in between? I think it's a 3, personally.
Well, I wouldn't
You
go-
thought of 1.
I'm gonna go to 2, because it is, I'm going with Bart a little bit here, that I really, there's buildings that should be torn down, but if there's an avenue that they can be saved, I do a lot of that for a living. I save old antique colonial, so I would like to save as many as we can, but I also don't want to limit the person selling the place, their availability at the money that they may need. So I don't say beyond a year or beyond 6 months, I'd say extend it to 1 year. And then a decision has to be made, because, I mean, you're tying somebody's money up. You're telling them what they can and can't do with their
The
property.
length of
Beyond a year
time,
is-
folks, let me try to say again, the length of time is irrelevant to the conversation in my mind.
Yeah, well-
What's important is to get addressed as an important issue or a lesser important issue.
All right,
I'm going with 2.
I'll go with the 2.
I can go with 2.
Two.
All right, 2 wins. Okay, legacy, expand availability of community garden plots through town-supported programming and provision of land within existing conservation areas and/or using private land secured through temporary agreements with the town.
9.
3.
1.
We've already got a lot of land that isn't even being used, so why make more? There's 9 acres, and only 3 acres are getting plowed, getting planted, so why make more?
You know, the community gardens are fully subscribed.
The one up at Lansom Meadows? There's only 3 of those 9 acres are being tilled, correct?
No, these are the community garden, where individual residents have plots inside the garden area. And those are all fully subscribed now.
I'm under the impression the one up across from the farm, whatever it is, right near the daycare center. That looks like
That's not.
Tobacco Row. There's 9 acres there,
I
right?
was thinking of when I walked through
Right,
this.
that's not community garden.
Uh,
That's not,
It says it.
It's open to whoever wants to plant though, right? I think that's
No.
community garden, isn't it?
No, it's not.
Then who
no,
can
that's,
plant there,
that's,
anybody?
that's leased to one farmer.
No,
I think, I'm on the same page as you.
no. There's like 3.
Okay, so I'm in a different spot.
Yeah, maybe we're in different spots.
For me, it's a 3 because they're not planting the open space they have
Okay,
now.
Mike?
Why give
3.
them
If there is a need, then I would support it. I'm hearing conflicting information here. How about a 2?
3.
Why do you?
3, sorry.
I'm a 3, and part of it is based on how this is written, it sounds like the town is the intermediary. Well, if folks want to be able to have a garden, they can just go to that farmer and ask if they can lease the land. So I don't know that the town necessarily needs to be involved, so that's why I'm saying.
Well, the Conservation Commission, or, they could be involved, it could go through them.
Yeah, again, so you want to, if
So, and
you
that's
want
town, but
to
it's.
plant a garden, go see the Conservation Commission. What's open? Where can we go? Where
Right.
can we?
I mean, if it's just a program that the Conservation Commission has, then, I can go and say, I've got 50 square feet in my backyard. If somebody wants to grow beans there, fine.
Expanding the availability might be as simple as just encouraging the Conservation
Right.
Commission to be
That's-
more
Just encourage them.
open to it and promoting the idea. I mean,
So, I could live with the 2 on that.
yeah.
Others?
I got 3s. I got
2. No, okay. Well,
I
was
got
a
one,
2.
I got 4 3s right now and a 1 3, 2 3, 4 3.
I'm at a 3 myself. I'm at a 3 myself on
All
that.
right, 3.
3, what you said.
Okay.
You can't have them all,
52,
Bartlett.
legacy, consider leveraging CPA funds and other budget sources through an open space acquisition bond.
Wow.
Now, is that different from what we do? I mean, we've got,
Aren't you doing acquisition bonds on a project-by-project basis?
yeah, it is
Yeah, some
project by
towns do
project.
it differently. Some
Okay,
towns
so it's-
actually have an authorization on the books,
Oh,
so
we
that
did
it's
that.
easier.
We did that at last town meeting, didn't we?
Joyce Williams.
It was a specific, particular parcel of land that
Right.
we.
Yeah, it
This
was-
is a different concept.
If we got the bond,
Right, but
well,
the
it was a
bond for
grant, it wasn't a bond, it was a
Right.
grant, my bad.
You know,
We're on the home stretch.
Consider leveraging, it's a 2, consider it.
All right, go.
okay, but, I mean, it's a great idea.
A legacy, complete an inventory of historic structures and heritage landscapes in Littleton, including photo documentation of present-day conditions, and update the town's historic resource inventory and forms.
How close does the Littleton 300 book come to that, to doing that?
Well, this is really about documentation
Yeah.
would make
More-
properties eligible for the register.
Oh, okay, so it's a much more
It's
thorough
also
documentation.
about the kind of information that a historical commission would want if someone came to them for a demolition
We should-
review.
that's what I thought.
That it's the documentation of, well, what is there, and what would you be trying to protect if you authorize someone to do a demolition? There's a whole, alternatives that you can do to at least preserve the record of the building, even if you're going to allow it to be torn down. So,
There's really not a lot in town when it's all said
One.
and done, but I'm with you on that, too.
I'm sorry.
One,
Oh, yeah, yeah. If you're going to do development and redevelopment, you need something that, as a record, an official record
you
of
need
what's
evidence,
there.
right.
site of the old mill house, burnt down in 1726.
Good.
Used to be a river running underneath here,
Good.
Concord.
All right, one it is. Legacy, undertake an effort to determine whether the current list of scenic roads should be added to or subtracted from based on changes that have occurred since the adoption of the bylaw in 1974. Develop a photographic inventory of the most critical scenic roads.
That differs from the one above, is that the one immediately above it because it deals just with roads?
And it's specific to authority under the Scenic
Yeah,
Roads
that's what I
Act.
thought, yeah.
Just doesn't seem like it's the first thing we want to spend resources on. I'm at 3.
Yeah,
Remind me,
it's on the
what does the
list.
Scenic Roads Act do?
If someone wants to take down
Stone
trees
wall.
or stone walls within the public right-of-way, the planning board has statutory authority and really an obligation to hold a hearing on that request, and potentially to either deny or impose conditions or allow. But it's a way to have a review process for
Yeah.
what could be the destruction of a historic asset that's not a building.
Like a guy, when they had one, just
So
cut,
this is
just
just
took it right
asking
out.
to update it.
Well, it's also kind of thinking about, are the roads that you have listed, are they still, are they all really scenic roads or not? Because you only have so many resources. So sometimes towns just say, well, every road in town is a scenic road, but they're not really. And so, again, to your point about where the town's resources, sometimes having a shorter list of really important scenic roads is a better way to go.
2,
I go 2.
Two.
2.
Huh?
Two.
I could have sworn there was a place up on Tehadawon Road where the guy just took the entire stone wall, just blew it apart.
We no longer own that property. I don't know what the hell he did with that.
Legacy, work with
I'm
the
not a fan of
Littleton
this.
Historic Commission, Planning Board, and other groups to establish a heritage landscape conservation program.
Yeah, this is a big effort.
Wow.
Heritage landscapes can be agricultural landscapes. They may be other kinds of landscapes that attest to the way people have lived in the community in the past. Some kind of, have a historic importance to it.
Or Shake a Village.
Yes, exactly, right.
All right,
2,
Bartlett?
Where did this one come from?
It probably was the consultation with the Historical Commission, I think.
Okay.
I'll go with 2 on that.
2.
All right, 2 it is. Legacy, pursue one or more local historic districts to include properties in areas such as Foster Street, Unitarian Church, Fire Station, Historical Society, as well as the area around Littleton Common.
Can we include the old depot in that?
it just says such as.
It's a such as.
2,
Yeah, knowing that the devil is in the details, I've never opposed to having historic districts. I think it just comes down to what, how you draft them. Whether they're,
I'd like to have, what stinks is that our main drag, we have a house built in, 1865. We have one built in 1975, and they're right next to one another. So it's kind of hard. I mean, once you get past Badgers, there's 3 or 4 houses in a row that are old, and then blink, and then they're all new until we get to the penny candy store sorts, right? So how much are we gonna be able to call, if we call it all historic district, and we implement some things, there are colors that are involved,
that's why I say the details are key. If you just,
Not every historic district regulates colors or paint.
correct, but there's,
In fact, most preservationists would say those things are movable, they're not permanent. Most historic districts today are not getting hung up on
have you
paint
been in front of
colors.
the Concord Historical Society?
I know that some of them are,
Some
I do
are,
know that,
some are.
I do know that.
Did you catch that word, right?
But the pursuit of one for, or multiple districts, whatever, here in our town,
2,
what priority is that for us?
Didn't that come out of our last session, this
we're still on
That was
56.
to avoid
Yes.
taking a whole
Yes.
swath.
Two.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
Back to
two
address
sounds
the issue
reasonable.
that they're,
Yeah, you can even have single
All right,
property
you had me at
districts.
1. If you went to 1, I was going to go to 1
All
with
right,
you.
we're on a 2 on that one, all right.
1.
Okay, 57, legacy, adopt a neighborhood conservation district bylaw and consider designating areas such as Littleton's mid-20th century neighborhoods, e.g. those located around the town's water bodies.
This is not zoning. It's not a zoning, so it
Yeah.
provides for a
3.
review process that is not, doesn't matter if it's a non-conforming use or structure. So it gives you some protection tools that you don't have under
All
zoning.
right, yeah, we had a pretty lengthy conversation on this one last
Okay.
time.
3.
3?
Brattl's got a 2. Give me a quick synopsis why.
Because the
One second.
character of the town is important to the people who live in it, and if you don't have this kind of thing, you're losing the character of the town.
Or maybe it's just changing. I mean, just losing doesn't necessarily always bad, sometimes things change. So I'm just-
Well, okay, I mean,
Like, introduce here.
Okay.
So as Melissa was about to say something,
I will go with the 2.
2.
give me a number, please.
I thought I did too, didn't I say that?
Yeah, but you said a lot of things, too.
We're trying to get to a 1. is
All
what
the
we're
people
trying to
talk
get
at the
to.
same time was the
2.
problem. Mike?
3, it's okay.
I'll go with 2.
All right, right at 2. Legacy, encourage committees engaged in historical preservation, environmental protection, open space planning, and economic development to meet periodically to explore opportunities to collaborate on historic and cultural preservation priorities.
Slam dunk, it's a 1, why not, right? It's easy to do, doesn't cost anything.
Encourage, yeah.
Collaboration is terrific.
And it's more meetings.
I don't know if there could possibly be more meetings.
All right, Mike?
1.
Peter?
1.
Okay, Paul's already at 1. All right, I guess we're at 1. Okay. Active government, establish mechanisms and policies that tie the implementation of the master plan to annual work plans, budgets, and capital projects.
1.
1.
I guess that's
I like the way that one's
by
worded, too.
acclamation.
Midnight.
Active government, provide the 21st century needs of a library facility in Littleton.
3.
1.
1.
The way it's worded, I could give that a 1. I'm not necessarily, as Mark knows, supportive of the project that's on the table, but I am in favor of providing for 21st century needs.
This was rewritten at that
Yeah, we had a
last
big
meeting.
debate
Yeah,
over it.
I understand, I was not at the last meeting, so I'm,
Well, now you're caught up.
All right, so we content we go with 1?
1.
All right, it is.
Awesome.
Active government, invest in technology upgrades that will help the town accommodate the growing demand for information, secure lines of communication, and redundancy across systems. I like this secure lines of communication. We're gonna put Millstar in for nuclear command and control?
When the water department decides to go a different direction, we can still have phones. That'd be a lovely thing.
Phones?
Yeah.
You mean the ones that have lines? Wires?
No, we have voice.
No, lines of communication.
Lines,
as you know,
oh,
is-
okay, I thought you meant,
When we say- and when it says secure lines of communication,
Yeah.
we're saying to possess them
Yes.
versus security issue. I get it.
Throw out a number, somebody.
Actually, it's important. We should invest in the technology
yeah, 1.
and continue growing,
1.
because that even includes
Those
getting
things go
another
down,
IT
then you
person.
got safety officials that got problems. Now I'm back to safety. Yeah.
Okay, so we're all at a 1?
Yep.
Okay, active.
again, the only issue I have with the wording there is that it implies that we aren't necessarily, doing that. So, I mean, I give it a 1, but I'd almost say continue to invest.
How about invest more, invest less? Which one?
Be more effective in your investment.
Regardless of how we get there, as you said earlier, we've got a 1.
Okay. Pursue a targeted program of outreach and information to enhance public use of conservation lands and recreational facilities.
So a targeted program of outreach and information to enhance public use. That sounds fair.
Sure.
I mean, it's just, again, it doesn't cost us much, right?
Yeah.
And it sounds fair. Target a program, outreach and information.
I'm sure some of that already happens, but could it be enhanced? Sure.
Well, it's not to say like we haven't been doing it all along.
Well,
I don't want anyone to think that we haven't been doing it.
That's my point over and over.
Mike?
You might have picked up on that.
Yeah, you beat it into me.
Just keep on moving.
What's your number? He's
1,
asked
I
for
already
it.
gave it 1.
All right, we got a 1s across the board.
Sure, why not?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Getting punchy.
Yeah, I'll go with 1 if people
Uh-huh.
want to do that.
Is it 2?
2 months?
Are we still in technology?
No.
No.
Oh.
No, 62.
Oh,
Paul?
Jesus Christ.
is it all one
But to help you, it's kind of one is a growing
Okay, there you
trend.
go. There you go.
Active government, upgrade and modernize the Shaker Lane School.
One.
We just did that, didn't we?
I know.
Yeah. That's what, you know,
I want to self-identify as an oldster, but I remember, I would consider that
know,
a
it seems
recent
that way.
project.
It's
We're
been
just paying off the
since my
Univents.
kids went there.
Well, I thought there were some serious defects with it, with air conditioning, electricity. I think there was a full survey of that school very recently.
It's the latest, they were being funny, sarcasm.
No, they mean it. They think the war was a revolutionary war, the last war, so that's all
Okay,
right.
we're all content with a 1,
there
President
was
on.
another?
See what I mean?
Active government, provide the Elder and Human Affairs Department with increased resource to serve seniors, residents with disabilities, and those in need of assistance.
I give that a 1, it's in our budget this year.
It's in our goals.
More than that, it's in the budget.
I don't remember voting on the Shaker Lane.
Active government, periodically evaluate the need for existing volunteer boards and committees. Where possible, consolidate committees with overlapping jurisdiction, eliminate committees whose services are no longer needed.
One.
Yeah, that is.
Yes.
We should create a committee to
I
study.
would put this ahead of raising money.
I like that.
It'll be a subcommittee, the implementation committee.
Another committee to say.
Okay, folks, we're rounding the corner. Active government, continue to evaluate enrollment trends, school capacity, and space needs in the Littleton Public Schools.
Yeah, absolutely.
1, why not?
One, yeah, if you don't do that.
All right. Here's what I'd like to do then, Judy, because that completes the list, folks.
BJ, what was 65? I think that's 65.
So it should have been a 1, I believe.
What?
Yeah. Based on the conversation we had, because we did discuss some of these as we went along, absent, like you say, we're off track, only address ones where you think need that sort of discussion from with you folks.
A lot of them we were in sync.
Are we starting over again?
No.
No.
We're gonna go do
We were
the ones
just asked
skipped.
whether
Yeah, I wanna get back
our
there.
rankings were substantially different from yours, and
So-
at what point did it matter?
So is there any place that, yeah, and that's the key operative word,
Just
matters.
looking really quickly here.
Well, Judy's looking at that. Go back to number 3, folks. Invest in infrastructure to enhance walking, biking, signage, and parking in the Littleton Common area to make it easier and more convenient for customers, residents to visit local businesses. We want to go back and discuss that a little bit more.
Really, I thought we already had that voted on.
We haven't, this was a discussion point.
Hold.
And that number
What was the
current-
point? I don't remember what the argument was.
So the number is what?
What did you have to be
I
done?
got 2, 2, 3, 2, 1. That's what I got for
Oh,
votes.
that's why we couldn't.
And
It was apparently quite fractious at the time, yeah.
Well, it was only on third one, and we were willing to be magnanimous and move on, rather than hash it out like we did the rest of the way.
So we're going with 2.
One issue
I
was.
think
was-
that some of the areas where our rankings were a
Bless
little
you, Gina.
different.
1 second, could be
I'm
1 second.
sorry.
And I apologize to you,
It's
because
all
we
right.
went into a conversation. Do we want to put 3 to bed with a 2?
Sure.
Yeah.
All right, it's a 2. Okay, Judy, go ahead, please, sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, I think that, just on a cursory glance here, I think that most of the areas where we ended up in a different place, we actually had a moderate or 2, or 2 where you ended up with a 1. And to some extent, I think the differences are because we had a lot of 1s at first too. Remember we went through this? And then there's this reality check you have to do of this is a small town, and there's only so many resources, and you just can't do it all, right? So some of the things like around preservation, which we think are really important, we had those as a moderate priority because we just think, just even dealing with a zoning update is a big deal. So, it's a big deal. I know, we do this kind of work, so I just thought, you only got so many resources, and it's not just money, it's also attention span. It's what can you get people to process and get. So that's probably where the differences are, unless there's something else you noticed too. But I'm just seeing it's a lot of our M's became H's in your scheme things. So what we should do is sort this now by 1, 2, or 3 and see how many 1s they've got. Because we may need to just say to you guys, you got an awful lot of 1s here.
Right.
I
Too
think
many
that's
might
going
be
to
a phrase,
happen
but
in
that's-
active government. I mean, we just went through, every 1 was an H.
Yeah.
And I think to Judy's point, when we were doing it, we'd probably think everything is an H because everything is important, but when it comes to factoring in the monetary piece and the difficulty piece, some things may have to.
The
shift a little
volunteers,
bit.
just the volunteers,
Yeah.
I mean.
I counted 34 H's, 18 M's and 14 Lows.
Top heavy.
It's top-heavy on the ones.
Yeah, a little bit.
See, you know, I just remember back at the beginning of all this, people talked about not wanting to end up with something that they couldn't do, or a plan that last time, quote, sat on the shelf. And so now we're at this point in the process, and I'm thinking, well, what can we help to do to protect you from that? And I think one of the things we can do to help protect you from that is to say, don't take on more than you can chew. You got 10 years here, and some of these things may just start at year 10. So that's, I think, where we were coming from, was just trying to be sensitive to the fact that this is a small town and you're not rolling in dough, although, I mean, you have an incredibly well-managed town here, but part of that is not spending just wildly on whatever stuff you want to spend money on. So I would encourage you to think about maybe putting some of those ones into twos, you know.
All right, for May 10th, should be March 10th, you're going to have the draft plan for
Yep,
us.
we are.
So I guess with that, any places that you're making suggestions we should alter, can you include that there?
In the March 10th?
Yeah.
Sure, you can.
We can think about it ourselves.
As you're in that drafting mode, the Economic Development Committee had just a couple of minor changes in the language there, and we're
Oh,
gonna meet
okay.
again next week.
Okay,
So I just, heads up, I'm forwarding.
sure.
It's on some of the bullet items, not blowing the whole thing up, just making a couple of things that reflect activity that you may not have been aware of.
The EDC wants to offer some recommendations?
Well, it's
Or
just
suggestions?
alterations to the existing,
They want to suggest some changes?
yes.
That's fine. We'd love that. You know, the other thing is, we're trying to get to March 10th, so,
Yeah, but we've just had a tough time getting a meeting date together. We're meeting March 8th. That's-
I understand.
Yeah.
That's fine.
So, yeah, please offer some of those areas where you
Yeah.
think we should seriously reconsider.
Yeah.
And then we're together back on the 14th. We will have read the draft plan.
Yeah.
We'll have seen your recommendations, and then in the context of the entire plan, it'll help us reevaluate these things also.
That's right.
when we get
That's what I'm
suggestions. Okay? Does that make sense?
And I have a clarifying question. So while we talk about having so many high-priority items, the timing of them is still different, though.
Yes, it is.
From the standpoint that some of them might be doable in years 1 through 3, but some of them might not be doable till years 7 through 10.
So we need to do a sort, and we need to look at that
Okay,
carefully.
so you
Yeah.
will be looking at that?
Yeah, we will. That's a
Okay.
very good point.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, what's the next step for tonight?
That's where we're going to get to. So we finished this, we have board business. And is there anything else you want to bring up before we go into the town meeting presentation and the recommendation feedback?
do
I
it.
would just like to emphasize one point, that I found this exercise extremely useful and reinforcing. Apropos of your comment about we're a town of, quote, certain resources.
Yeah.
It really struck me that one thing that came through is that we have to work, the town should put it as a high priority, work much harder, much more professionally, and increasing our sources of, frankly, financial resources first. And also taking a serious look about how and who we hire to help us. That's consultants as well as hires. In other words, I think we have to up our game both financially and up our game professionally in terms of who does what. Because I think in order to execute these elements, we're gonna have to be as good as what we are today that got us where we are, and we have to match that in competence to get us to the next step at the very least. So I'm trying to pick up from the theme that trying to cut things down here is probably a great exercise. But for me, it really focused on the real need, top priority is this town's gonna fight hard and find new sources of revenue. Not just taxes, obviously, but find new sources of revenue, tax residents only, but find new sources of revenue. And number two, definitely increase up the game in terms of how we hire, where we hire, in terms of professionals who come into the town to assist. Because our elected officials performed extremely well in, this is it's an obvious thing to say that they got us here. Now what I want to do is increase what they've got to work with, increase the bandwidth and the depth.
Ralph, any thoughts? Want to add anything before we close? Or move on, that is. Well,
Be interested in seeing the draft document. I have played around with something I'd probably share at some point. I think it is important that without changing the document structure, there ought to be probably at the end a one-page summary, because a population of future office holders are gonna
You agree?
want to walk around with one page and, maybe.
It'll probably be one
10
page back to back.
Well, it shouldn't reflect the details as much as what you can memorize, the 10 key points, and it might lump a lot of this stuff together, so
You're talking about the elevator speech?
yeah. Yeah, because a lot of the officials and a lot of the citizens, they may read it once and then 2 months later have forgotten the details.
That's what happens.
All those points need to exist in this format. I have no problem with it in the prioritization. But for it to actually happen, selectmen and planning board members and whoever else, town administrators, need to have one piece of paper that they can have sitting on the top of their desk or on their, phone or whatever, that they can call up and it can be passed out readily, and it ought to encapsulate this. So I don't think that needs to change what's going on in the other big picture, but I'll share some thoughts in an email on it, but a lot of, while you're doing your own recommendation, final recommendations, or next step recommendations, maybe you can give some thought to that too.
Certainly.
Peter?
He's still recovering.
Yeah, I'm all set.
All right. Can we have the plan on the 10th
Yeah.
by 4 PM at the latest?
Sorry.
Because
It's probably going to be more like dinner time.
my mom eats at 4 PM. That's her dinner time.
I don't know.
What
if
time
you're
do you have
gonna
supper?
get my- I don't know. I can't.
And here's why,
I
because
cannot say that for
I'm looking
sure.
at the 10th on a Friday, and we're getting to meet on Tuesday, the 14th.
Yeah, we'll do everything we can to get it to you by 4 PM.
So,
Tomorrow?
No.
No, dear. By next Friday.
because what it really boils down to is 3 days to prepare.
Yes, I understand.
And at that, Monday and Tuesday of that next week would probably be business days for most folks. So,
Okay.
and late in the evening, early in the morning on the 11th, just doesn't hack it, please.
Yeah, we will do the best we can.
And
And
no
that's
one,
the best I'm going to be able to say right now.
and I know your best will achieve that. I'm confident, so thank you.
Okay, so can
Are
I
you
just,
browbeating this poor woman?
No, I'm complimenting her.
I'm also just trying to be very realistic with all of you. I want to just mention one thing. Because this draft document may get edited because people have comments or whatever, we're actually going to give you a draft that is a Microsoft Word file, which is pretty much what we've been doing so far. So there'll be some art in it and so forth, but it's not going to be the final published version of the plan. We're not going to bring this into a program called Adobe InDesign until we know we are done, which probably should be even after town meeting, just because we don't know if town meeting's going to want any changes. So we can talk about this. I'm not worried about
I
it.
want to be clear there,
Okay.
because we've already, this is
Okay.
clear,
All
at least in my mind. And I
Okay.
try to make it clear to everybody I've spoken to.
All right,
The planning board will approve it.
okay,
We will
That's fine.
present to town meeting.
okay.
We will what? I just want to know what I'm being told to do. I
It's
just-
being, the
That's
spot,
fair. That's fair, PJ.
the spot on the town meeting warrant,
That's fair.
Madam Chair, you can probably correct me, is under reports of committees, so it's a
Okay, that's
report,
fine.
it's not a voted.
That's fine.
Endorsement.
Yeah.
So that we keep that expectation.
She's chair of the selectmen,
Oh,
whatever.
for, I thought you-
So they see the pretty version, and I hate to call it that, but that's what it
No,
is.
it's,
Yeah.
Pretty bird?
Pretty version.
it's the final version that is open to amendment the following day.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what you're going to get from us in the end is the published version, which will have to be a PDF file, but we'll also give you the native Word files.
Yeah.
Which will be like, each chapter will be, because the whole document has to be pulled apart in order to then pack it up back in InDesign again. So we'll make sure you have all the native files, but the version that gets handed around is going to be the PDF.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
and that's what we're presenting to the planning board.
Yeah. Yeah, when is the planning board hearing? As long as we don't get hit with any big changes toward the end of March, I think that's my only concern.
Right, April 6th, it'll open, it could continue to April 20th if needed.
The 20th is when the vote is, right?
Okay. So you know what we're gonna need
Is that
to
when you're
do?
voting, is that 20th? The vote is scheduled for the 20th, correct?
As soon as we give
But
them,
how are we voting? Just having fun with you.
Smile,
just a little small,
Just a small one.
Too late for fun.
Let him finish this.
20?
but what if the planning board wants changes?
You'll have that opportunity.
Okay, but I don't wanna put this in the published form.
No,
I'm sorry, maybe I'm
the
misunderstanding you.
20th is when they vote on it. It's 2 weeks before that, they first see it. And we
Right.
have the public hearing.
Right. Right, but I'm just saying, if they want changes to it, we wouldn't have put it in InDesign yet at that point. Because if they want changes and we need to edit it, we need to do that in Word.
All right, let's have a sidebar on what
Sure.
finished product means.
Yeah.
And a finished product.
Yeah,
Okay,
finish,
so-
right, that's fine. I don't mind that. I'm not trying to make your life difficult. I'm trying to make sure that we have the flexibility to make amendments in this document if we are requested to do so based on the planning board's hearing. That's all I'm trying to do.
How much time have we dedicated to going through this in front of the board?
So far,
Well, we better, right?
no?
We have a how many page document that's gonna come in front of the planning board?
100 some odd pages, I mean, I don't know right now, it's like, huh?
I like
About
his thing,
100,
like
probably
two.
about 100. But the document, yeah, it's gonna be 100, probably 100
Well, the
pages.
good thing is with 2 members from each of the very important boards that are part of this process on this particular committee, and then the updates have been provided to both the planning board and to the Board of Selectmen.
All right, so at our final meeting, Paul, your update to us last week was fantastic, thank you very much, but we could also have Paul and Melissa
To do what? To do what?
come to the planning board
Oh,
session.
yeah, I'm
when
planning on coming.
we're going over the final, this draft that's still in PDF form, though we have read some in paper form, because PDF means Peter doesn't find it when it comes across a computer. All right? It has to be either in paper or it's not.
No,
gonna be
and I'm just talking about the electronic version.
Thank you.
It's-
Aaron's very good about that.
It's
So we're
just
good.
about production, that's all this is about.
Okay, well, by Wednesday of next week, we'll have that.
All right, we have some meeting minutes, don't we, Maren?
Word version of the draft by March 10th.
Draft minutes from January
10th.
10th.
So anybody want to make a motion on
Today the
January 10th
5th?
meeting minutes?
Today's the first.
Accepted as written.
Ash
as
Wednesday.
precedent.
They're excellent, by
Is there a
the way.
second?
Your
Second.
minutes are, yeah, that's-
Okay, motion been made and seconded. Paul, do I need to say that again?
I just wanted, as Melissa knows,
Aye.
Yeah, I
she
know.
hears me bitch about minutes all the time. These are wonderful. They capture what's
Aye.
actually said.
Motion's been made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Did we get an aye from you?
Yes.
We got an aye from
Oh,
you.
yeah, you got an amen from me.
Yeah, it's a real compliment, I'll say that.
Okay, do we want to talk about anything else this evening?
Not night.
Yeah.
All right, let's get this exercise up.
Okay, motion to adjourn,
So moved.
Second.
seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you guys very much.
Thank you.